Yeah, so some of the big challenges when customers are making the kind of digital transformation to the cloud itself is just where are their assets at in the cloud, and then how do they put protection around those assets, but in a native approach. Native being using the ecosystems they're operating in, if it's AWS or Azure or GCP, all of those environments now have security tools. In fact, I think just yesterday, AWS came out with an announcement that they're releasing 2 security tools a day. Right? 2 a day, 740 tools a year. So how do you secure your assets in that digital transformation, taking the approach of, understanding what's available for you, but also what's required for your actual environment itself. So the burden it puts on the CISO itself is massive. It's almost insurmountable. If you think about, trying to train up, a dozen people on 720 different security tools in that transformational journey, it's a huge challenge and burden. At the same time, they have to make that transformation rapidly, right? They can't slow the business down, so they need to have the business accelerate, at the same time appreciate what those environments provide, because it's not a traditional, hardwired OEM type of solution environment, right? It's a pretty closed off architecture. So the ability for them to even put controls in there that are in a traditional sense fairly easy to adopt is not actually so easy anymore. It's a big challenge. Yeah, I would say it's a 50-50 mix between security leaders being, in the decision-making process in that digital transformation, and then the other 50% is becoming an afterthought, right? The business has to move rapidly, and I would say it's also not the fault of the corporations many times, right? Because a lot of these corporations, it's their business units making the decision. It's the legal department, it's the finance department, the HR department, moving to a SaaS-based solution in that digital transformation and not realizing they should go talk to their security partners. They have them, potentially look at what they're doing, and is it safe and secure? I think the mature organizations definitely have brought security to the forefront. They've realized if we can secure it in the early stages, then the later stages it becomes much easier to maintain. Whereas on the flip side, if you bring security as an afterthought, to have to reverse engineer the whole thing to then secure it, you're going to be replacing code, doing rework, a lot of duplications. It's extremely inefficient. So I would say it's 50-50 at this point. Yeah, I mean, you think about like the whole old concept of security by design, right? So security by design really is focused on designing things for production in a rapid sense, but with security as the fabric. So security as the fabric essentially kind of means as you go through each phase or each step, you're doing a bit of a security review and design, right, before you run into production. Whereas if you think about it as an afterthought, each one of those phases and steps has to be completely reverse engineered and pen tested to realize if you can go to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. So then if you think about it from a waterfall perspective, but not as a development perspective, but just from a waterfall, if you have an issue, it's going to fall back on each previous phase, which in that case, if you're a business, right, like how inefficient are you to have to go back and redo all the work to go into production because you forgot a major security fundamental piece in one of those steps. So that security by design thing, it's been around for a long time, but it just honestly makes sense. If you think about, that fabric throughout the development cycle, and you put that into the actual process of developing, it makes the output secure and honestly like much more affordable for the businesses. Yeah, one of the biggest challenges that you're going to see, really kind of, I would say, accelerate in the next 2 to 3 years is not just going to be a single tenant cloud environment or a single SaaS environment. You're going to see an environment where there's every part of your business is leveraging a SaaS. Every part of your business is leveraging not 1, not 2, maybe 4 different public cloud environments. And you're also going to have a hybrid private cloud environment as well. So where my data is going to be is not something that you're going to be able to get comfort with, right? You're not going to be able to come out and just kind of hug your servers, hug your data, and get comfort with that. So, understanding how to secure an almost an unsecured environment from where my data is going to be at, what I'm going to be, potentially going to try to convince business units to follow a security best practice or a process. The job of the CISO, the job of the security team is going to become, tenfold more difficult in this very hybrid public cloud world that we live in now, and then further extrapolated by all the different companies that are producing content on top of those public clouds. So think about it almost like a multiplier of complexity, right? As you get to all the different clouds and then all the different SaaSes on top of those clouds, and you're the guy or the gal that's responsible ultimately for the security.